Right, so Morena, good morning. I'm Trina Cooper, I'm the General Manager for PARA. Just some housekeeping, the session is being recorded and it will be made available on the PARA website later this week. Just a note that your video image may be seen when we share the presentation on the website and social media, so just ensure that you have your camera turned off if you want to remain incognito. We ask that you remain muted, and if you wish to ask a question, just use the chat function that you see at the bottom of your screen, and these will be addressed at the end of the presentation. Today we are doing our pop-up chat with Elaine Thompson, talking about neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. NLP is another tool to put into your kete when working with people in the perinatal period. After an NLP session, a person may be able to empower themselves by knowing they are in control of their life, actions and emotions, so they can just show up as they are the best possible version of themselves. And we will just open with karakia and then I'll hand over to Elaine. Whakataka te ho ki te uru, whakataka te ho ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, e he aki ana te atakura, he tio, ki huka, e hohanga, te he moriora. Cease the winds from the west, cease the winds from the south, let the breeze blow over the land. Let the breeze blow over the ocean. Let the red-tipped dawn come with a sharpened ear, a touch of frost and a promise of glorious day. Great. Now, Elaine, I will hand over to you and I'll just get the PowerPoint presentation loaded up.
Thank you very much. So, tēnā koutou katoa, tēnei tōku whakapapa. I whānau mai ahau I Ingarangi. Me a neanei hai nui tōku kainga. Ko Thompson tōku whānau, ko Peter tōku hoatane, ko Nick takutama, ko Elaine tōku ingoa. He kāko ahau, he mātua ahau, me he kāko ora ahau. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. So I'm Elaine. As you can hear, I'm English by birth, although I've lived with my family in Arrowtown now for many years. I'm a teacher and I'm a parent to Nick, who is now 20, and I'm also an NLP practitioner. What matters to me is teaching, parenting, and well-being. And so I'm here today to tell you a little bit about NLP. I'd like to approach it in the way that I approach my work as a play centre support worker and a space facilitator, in that it's about me putting my ideas out there on the table as a choice for you to think about. And the choice then is yours to pick up or not, as you would wish. So I'd like to begin with a whakatauki that I like. If I could have the next slide, Trina, please. So poipoia te kākano kia puawai. Nurture the seed and it will bloom. We all need love and care to fully realise our potential. How we nurture our own seeds of truth is deeply personal and we need to be gentle. And there are often others that help us, or not sometimes, as the case may be. As a long-time parent and an even longer time teacher, I am really aware of this. So one of the first people that I began following regularly on social media was a man called James Clear. I've more recently read Atomic Habits, but I began by subscribing to something called 321 Thursday, which a friend recommended, one of those really helpful connections. 321 Thursday is an email that arrives in my inbox in New Zealand every Friday morning here, and it's 3 thoughts, it's 2 quotes, and 1 question to reflect on. And a story that's stuck with me for a number of years now is the parable of the eagle and the chicken. So if I could have the next slide, Trina. A man found an eagle's egg and put it in the nest of a barnyard hen. The eaglet hatched with the brood of chickens and grew up with them. All his life, the eagle did what the barnyard chicks did, thinking he was a barnyard chicken. He scratched the earth for worms and insects. He clucked and cackled. And he would thresh his wings and fly a few feet into the air. So if I could have the next slide, the N in NLP stands for neuro. It's to do with our minds, and it's to do with our thinking and the incredible and beautiful power that our minds have to create our whole world. We think, we feel, and we do. Everything begins with a thought. So how does the thought begin? Where are its roots? I'd love to share with you someone who has had a great influence on me and my thinking as a teacher. He's an English educationalist named Sir Ken Robinson. He's no longer with us, sadly, but this clip is just one that influenced how I thought. It generated feelings in me and it changed my choices. So if we could have a look at that, Trina, that would be great. It always takes a little bit of a while to load.
I'm doing a new book at the moment called Epiphany, which is based on a series of interviews with people about how they discovered their talent. I'm fascinated by how people got to be there. It's really prompted by a conversation I had with a wonderful woman who most people have never heard of. She's called Gillian Lynn. Have you heard of her? Some have. She's a choreographer, and everybody knows her work. She did Cats and Phantom of the Opera. She's wonderful. I used to be on the board of the Royal Ballet in England, as you can see. And anyway, Gillian and I had lunch one day. I said, how'd you get to be a dancer? And she said it was interesting. When she was at school, she was really hopeless. And the school in the 30s wrote to her parents and said, we think Gillian has a learning disorder. She couldn't concentrate. She was fidgeting. I think now they'd say she had ADHD. Wouldn't you? But this was the 1930s, and ADHD hadn't been invented, at this point. So it wasn't an available condition. People weren't aware they could have that. Anyway, she went to see this specialist. So this oak-panelled room, and she was there with her mother, and she was led and sat on this chair at the end, and she sat on her hands for 20 minutes while this man talked to her mother about all the problems Gillian was having at school. And at the end of it, because she was disturbing people, their homework was always late and so on, little kid of 8, in the end, the doctor went and sat next to Gillian and said, Gillian, I've listened to all these things that your mother's told me. I need to speak to her privately. So he said, wait here, we'll be back. We won't be very long. And they went and left her. But as they went out the room, he turned on the radio that was sitting on his desk. And when they got out the room, he said to her mother, just stand and watch her. And the minute they left the room, she said she was on her feet, moving to the music. And they watched for a few minutes, and he turned to her mother, and he said, Mrs. Lynn, Gillian isn't sick, she's a dancer. Take her to a dance school. I said, what happened? He said, she did. I can't tell you how wonderful it was. We walked in this room, and it was full of people like me. People who couldn't sit still. People who had to move to think. Who had to move to think. They did ballet, they did tap, they did jazz, they did modern, they did contemporary. She was eventually auditioned for the Royal Ballet School. She became a soloist. She had a wonderful career at the Royal Ballet. She eventually graduated from the...
Sorry, everybody. My computer just loaded something else for the moment. Sorry. I'll just get that back again.
Sick. She's a dancer. They did jazz, they did modern, they did contemporary. She was eventually auditioned.
It's fine if you want to go from there.
She auditioned for the Royal Ballet School. She became a soloist. She had a wonderful career at the Royal Ballet. She eventually graduated from the Royal Ballet School, found her own company, the Gillian Dance Company, met Andrew Lloyd Webber. She's been responsible for some of the most successful musical theatre productions in history. She's given pleasure to millions, and she's a multi-millionaire. Somebody else might have put her on medication and told her to calm down.
I really enjoy hearing Sir Ken Robinson speak, and that particular TED Talk really impacted how I saw difference. It made a difference to how I thought. It created emotions in me, it created feelings in me, and it changed how I practiced. My aunt also impacted how I saw difference. One thing you won't know about me is that my mum's side of the family are Danish. And this is a video that my aunt shared with me quite a few years ago now, that was an advert that was being shown on Danish television. And it too had a really big influence on my thinking and about how I saw difference. And it doesn't matter how many times I watch it, it still evokes a lump of emotion in my throat. And so for me, it's powerful and it remains powerful. And it made changes to how I create connection. So maybe we could have a look at that one, Trina, please.
It's easy to put people in boxes. There's us, and there's them. The high earners, and those just getting by. Those we trust, and those we try to avoid. There's the new Danes, and those who've always been here. The people from the countryside, and those who've never seen a cow. The religious, and the self-confident. There are those we share something with, and those we don't share anything with.
Velkommen. Jeg kommer til at stille jer nogle spørgsmål i dag. Nogle af dem kan godt være lidt personlige, men jeg håber, I vil svare ærligt på dem. Hvem herinde i rummet var klassens klovn? Hvem er bonusforældre?
And then suddenly, there's us. We who believe in life after death. We who've seen UFOs. And all of us who love to dance. We who've been bullied. And we who've bullied others. And then there's us, the lucky ones who've had sex this past week. We who are broken-hearted. We who are madly in love. We who feel lonely. We who are bisexual. And we who acknowledge the courage of others. We who have found the meaning of life. And we who have saved lives. And then there's all of us who just love Denmark. So maybe there's more that brings us together than we think. TV2 Denmark. All that we share.
I'm so pleased. It brings tears to your eyes too, because I get a lump every time. So where are the roots of our thoughts? The L of NLP stands for linguistic. The roots of our thoughts are in language, the language of our world. Everything speaks to us. Very often it's words. Words are really powerful. But it's not always words. We receive messages through every one of our senses. If I could have the next slide, please, Trina. As an early childhood teacher, I am very familiar with Loris Malaguzzi's poem. It's called The 100 Languages of Children, and it's on the screen in front of you if you would like to have a scan whilst I'm talking. You'll find it if you Google, if you're interested. So Loris Malaguzzi was the founder of the Reggio Emilia philosophy of education. It was developed in the village of Reggio Emilia in Italy after World War II. And it was a response to war. It was a hope that such a war wouldn't happen again. and that it couldn't happen again if we paid attention with all of our senses to understand our world and our people in it. We've been listening to the messages of our world from the moment of our conception. Sometimes we remember, but very often we don't. As a teacher, I enjoy engaging, for example, with the work of Nathan Wallace, Penny Brownlee, Maggie Dent, Janet Lansbury, Kimberly Crisp. They're all people that you can find on Google. They're all people that you'll find on social media. And they are all really passionate about our children's first 3 years of life and the influence of their significant adults on how they grow. And I can remember being taken aback at a Nathan Wallace talk quite a few years ago now, learning that a baby's brain is on average about 500 grams when they're born, about 1.2 kilograms at 3 years old, and then 1.3 kilograms as an adult. That had a big impact on my thoughts. That made me feel something, and it changed my practice because I understood something that I hadn't understood before. So yes, we've been listening from the moment of our conception, but we are still listening now. We never stop listening. And it's incredible, absolutely incredible how much our mind hears. If you're in any doubt, I wonder if you have heard of a man called Derren Brown, very well known back in the UK. He has been portrayed as a magician. He has been portrayed as a hypnotist, but actually he is a highly skilled master practitioner of NLP, and he uses television to share how incredible he believes our minds are. It's theatrical, but it is scientific. So hopefully you're not too tired of snippets yet, because here is a snippet of one of my favorite, I suppose it's a stunt really, one of my favorite stunts that he pulls. It is so clever. Enjoy.
I invited 2 members of MBA, an advertising agency, to a secret location to propose an unusual task. Those who work in advertising are masters of persuasion. They subtly weave their images and slogans into our daily lives, knowing that we will register so much unconsciously. And then we walk into a supermarket and feel a sense of familiarity with a product we think we've never heard of. Millions of pounds a year are spent on it. It's brilliantly calculated, and we all fall for it. So I thought I'd turn the tables on the advertising experts. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen. Tony, yes?
Yes, that's fine.
And Martin?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Darren. Let me get down to explaining exactly what I want you to do. Imagine that I'm opening a chain of stores selling a product, something I have a particular interest in. Your task is to come up with a poster advertising that store. And that poster must include the company name, whatever you decide that may be. It must include a strap line, some sort of slogan, and some kind of logo as well, some kind of visual image. Now, the idea is you've only got half an hour to do this, so you've got to really work with your first instinct. So at the moment, you've got no idea what you're going to do, correct?
No.
Excellent. I'm also going to give you this. I've had a few design ideas of my own.
Okay.
I want to leave this untouched. We'll come back to that later. All right? Are there any questions?
What's the product?
What's the product? Very good question. Passion of mine since I was a toddler. It's a chain of taxidermy stores.
Ooh.
Let me pop the pussycat on the envelope so it remains untouched. You have half an hour, gentlemen. Good luck.
Great, thanks. Right, let's go for it.
Get stuffed as a start.
Right. Animal Hospital,
Yeah,
the ones who didn't make it. No, that's probably just stupid.
To do with wings.
All creatures great and small. Quality that says like nice, positive type dead animals. Animal heaven. Where animals go.
Animal heaven, that's good.
Graveyard.
Animal heaven's
Animal
great.
heaven.
Where the best animals go to.
Loads of clouds with animals on them.
Yeah,
Gates,
harps,
pearly gates,
gates.
bear playing a harp.
Yeah. Only the best
Zoo.
get in. Only the best get into here.
Yeah, yeah. Where dead animals go to live. Where the best.
It's the best place for dead animals. It's simple.
Time up, gentlemen.
Okay.
I can't wait to see what you've done. Come and show me.
Okay.
And Tony, before we do this, can you take the envelope I gave you earlier?
Okay.
And can you please vouch for us here that no one's been anywhere near it, it's been under a dead cat, no one's touched it?
That's right.
That's the truth.
That's
That's
correct.
the truth.
Keep hold of it, come around here. Now, before we have a look at it, just tell me, what was it like?
We started off thinking about the name. I thought that was we thought that was probably
Yeah,
the best thing to
the
do.
starting point.
Sure.
And then take it from there, really. We banged out a load of ones that were probably completely stupid, and then got down to the ones that were slightly stupid, and then we kind of, that went back and forth for a bit, and then kind of got something we liked and developed it.
You can I have a look?
Sure.
Sure.
Is this it?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. it's a bear with a lyre.
So it's animal heaven, the best place for dead animals.
And it's obviously, you'd see that it was stuffed.
How did you come up with the name Animal Heaven?
We had the idea of the pearly gates of heaven being the zoo gates.
Zoo gates as the gates of heaven, that's interesting.
i.e. sort of all the animals that are dead are in a dead zoo, if you like, in heaven. And then we just kind of thought, well, it's kind of nice, but it's a bit twee. We wanted to make it a bit funkier. And then we thought a harp-playing bear just answered the brief.
It's fantastic. I do want to show you my own ideas from beforehand.
Okay.
I don't want to touch. Would you open them for me?
Sure.
And the winner is...
I think you'll find this interesting.
Okay.
Get rid of the envelope.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
All right. Not a million miles away. Let me put this up there. Hang on to that. It's a harp-playing bear.
Yeah.
God.
You've gone for these angel wings here. Were you thinking of angel wings or bird wings?
Yeah, well, they were kind of a combination.
You do them a lot better than me. This was the same thing. I was thinking angel wings there. You've got animal heaven. I got creature heaven.
Yeah. So
Where the best.
you're a bit off there then.
A bit off there.
Okay.
Where the best dead animals go. Did you
God.
put blessed place for dead animals?
Wow.
Very similar. I had the idea of a zoo gate on there.
It was hard to
We
leave out.
didn't want to overload it.
It was hard to leave out, but
Sure.
it just wasn't. It was just a bit too much.
Can I see your other, the other one you were talking
Yeah,
about?
put
Was
it
one of
down.
the-
Yeah, it's just before there.
Is it very different?
Well,
Well, it's just the gates.
yeah.
Oh, gentlemen, please.
We're drawing quite similar.
Look at that. This was the image I was thinking. I've done it there in the background because this to me was the more striking image. And interestingly, you abandoned this for this one. This was obviously
Well,
clear in your mind.
the first bear I drew looks exactly like that one, actually.
It did, yeah.
The first bear you drew.
Yeah,
on the
shall I
pad,
show
yeah.
you on the notes?
Show me.
like that,
Show me.
yeah.
What have you got?
Well, this is scary, really. But,
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. You've got the cloud, you've got the blue. If you knew the amount of effort we've gone into making this work, you'd be absolutely flabbergasted. But for now, it's comforting to know that you're just as susceptible to subliminal persuasion as the rest of us. Thank you very much for helping us out. Tony,
Thank you.
Martin,
pleasure.
take care. Thank you very much indeed.
Bye-bye.
I think I'm quite cynical, and when I saw the bear and I saw a cloud, first of all, from behind the paper, I thought, hang on, he's close here, and then when we saw the rest of it, I couldn't believe it.
I immediately thought, oh, I'm gutted. I could see that it was folded, and I just saw the bear's foot hanging over the cloud with the harp.
Yeah.
And I just thought, oh, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
You know, it was
And
gutted.
how embarrassing.
But now I think, oh, fantastic. You know, I'm over the moon.
I mean, obviously we're pleased for him,
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, it's
as long as if he comes out of this looking good, then that's that's always the main thing.
To see how we did it, watch their taxi journey again.
Put a spell on you. Cause you're mine. You better stop the things you do. I ain't lying. No.
You're freaking me, man.
Thank you. So it is just incredible what we hear. So the P in NLP stands for programming. And when we are aware of what we're hearing, when we are aware of what we have heard, and the infinite complexity of being human, we have the power to make choices. It'll be interesting asking Trina later whether she saw all those little bits of subliminal preparation that Darren Brown put in place now that she's watched the video for the second time. When we're aware of what we've heard, it makes a massive difference. And we do have the power to make choices, to choose what we want to listen to choose then what we want to keep, and to choose then what we would rather lay down and leave, because it doesn't really serve us. We can own our thoughts, and we can own our feelings, and we can own our doings. So I have one more very, very short snippet this time, showing people thinking and feeling and doing. And this one I found because my brother-in-law works for Carlsberg. So yeah, it's another Danish connection, but it's very short, but it amuses me. Thank you. Thank you. So to use NLP jargon, we can be at cause or we can be at effect. If I could have the next slide, when we're at cause, we take ownership of what we're doing. We take ownership of who we are, and we drive ourselves like a speedboat through the ocean's currents, no matter what those currents may be. We're at cause, we take charge. If I could have the next slide, when we're at effect, we let life lead us. So we're a little bit more like a cork bobbing around wherever the ocean takes us without taking control of it, without being able to be in control of it. So this is how I see NLP. I find it incredibly powerful knowing and understanding how my mind works. And I also find it a really powerful place to teach from and to parent from, whether I'm working with other teachers or other parents or children, or even if I'm working one-to-one with someone who has asked for help. I'm really mindful of not just the messages that I receive, but also the messages that I send and the messages that I could inadvertently send if I'm not careful. When I am aware, if I make a mistake, I can apologize, and no one is too young to receive an apology. So this is a quote that I discovered when I went on a course last year. I think it's a beautiful quote, if I could have the next slide. And if there is just one thing I could teach, if there is just one message that I could send, I think this would be it. But I know that I'm going to give many. And so I am careful. I am really careful as a teacher. I am really careful as a parent. If I could have the next slide. So years passed, and the eagle grew very old. One day he saw a magnificent bird above him in the cloudless sky. It glided in graceful majesty among the powerful wind currents with scarcely a beat of its golden wings. The old eagle looked up in awe. "Who's that?" he asked. "That's the eagle, the king of the birds," said his neighbor. "He belongs to the sky. We belong to the earth. We're chickens." So the eagle lived and died chicken, for that's what he thought he was. So if I could have the next slide, this is a whakatauki that I love too. E ngā ki ana amua, e tōtō mai ana amuri. First clear the weeds, then plant. Make time for mind weeding. However you choose to care for your well-being, make time for it, schedule it. I do. I have this beautiful book. It looks like this. And in it, Dr. Hinemura says this: "No one actually teaches us to gently and kindly examine the thoughts and feelings that we internalize that are not really ours. But it is such an important practice, because otherwise we can unwittingly internalize these thoughts and feelings, and they can become integrated into our consciousness." So we have 86,400 seconds in our day. So I'd like to thank you for choosing to spend a chunk of them listening to me. I always respect when I'm gifted time, because time's finite and it's really precious. You don't get it back. So thank you. I know that your mind will have received messages from me. Your model of the world might have grown a little, might have changed a little, and so has mine. Mine has through organizing my thoughts to speak to you. So how we feel now will influence what we choose to take away. And there is honestly, there's no right or wrong. So I will hand back to Trina. Thank you so much for managing my tech. And I know that you were going to field whether or not there were any questions, but thank you.
Great. So if anyone's got any questions, we'll just pop those into the chat box here. So Elaine, it was interesting watching that Darren Brown video twice. There was a couple that I did miss still a second time because, you know, the taxi was going quite fast, but, you know, just, yeah, those little subliminal snippets, isn't it? Just part of our everyday life. Yeah, quite surprising.
It's powerful, and I really value that I discovered it was a choice. The NLP, the whole NLP thing was a choice. For me, it came out of the first lockdown, and I am very grateful that that is something really positive for me that came out of that first lockdown. I find it life-changing, but that's me, and it is another choice on the table for anybody else.
Now, there was a question, Elaine, about how to learn more about ELP.
How to learn more about NLP? I learned about NLP from two play centre parents, actually, which doesn't help you very much. But they have a website. They have a website called Your Life Live It. And I know that there was a link to that in the email that Trina sent. So you will learn about NLP in the way that I did, by connecting with Amanda and Sarah through Ryland. If you Google NLP, you will find heaps and heaps and heaps about it, and a lot of different opinions about it. So I think explore, read, and see how it makes you feel, and see if it changes how you look at the world. And if it does, keep exploring. I am biased. I really enjoyed learning about NLP through Amanda and Sarah. So my suggestion would be use that as your starting point. They explain it very clearly. At the moment, I don't know if I should do this actually. And at the moment, they are offering a very short 5-hour course called Just Be Me for free. And so if you were interested in finding out more, actually, that would be a good way to do it, because at the moment, it normally retails, I think, at about $400. But at the moment, in these COVID times, you can access that for free. It's about 5 hours worth of material. So if you're really interested in finding out more, that was actually the first thing that I did. I did the Just Be Me course and enjoyed it, and so kept going. So I hope it's okay to say that, Trina.
So is that
because
accessed
I'm
through
not-
the Your Life Live It website?
Yeah,
Isn't it?
through the Your Life Live It website. If
Okay.
you click on courses, and you can go, it's listed in those courses. Yeah, so I should have checked with you first whether it's okay, because it's kind of advertising, but it's kind of not, because it's free and it's not making anybody any money. So sorry, I hope that's okay. But that's how I started. Yeah, that's how I started. I did just be me.
Right. Now the book Aroha is written by Dr. Hinemoa Elder.
Hinemoa Elder. That's what it looks like on the front cover.
And it's easily available at all bookshops.
It's easily available, so you can see that came from Woodcalls. Yeah, it's a beautiful book. It's full of whakatauki, and it's she has a whakatauki, she has a translation, and then she speaks on it. And I find her words really powerful.
Right. So what advice would you give to somebody who's working with a mum who perhaps is feeling a bit anxious, a bit depressed, antenatally, postnatally? Have you just got some sort of little key words or advice that we could take away from this?
I would look into what's generating those feelings. Rather than work with the feelings, I would look at what's generating those feelings, what she's believing that's generating those feelings, and work with what comes from there. I would start with the thought patterns, the mindset, because it's those thoughts and that mindset that will be generating those feelings that will then generate the choices that she is making, for good or not good. If you could work with her to discover what's actually causing those feelings, what's generating those feelings, what's she believing about herself, what's she believing about her world, and start there. That's where I would start.
Great.
That's what, as an NLP practitioner, that's where I would start. And then from there, I would look at how I would work with that and make choices around how I would work with that. If she were a client, or even if we were just discussing around as a group in space, if someone has felt empowered or comfortable enough to share, then it would become a group conversation. But it would be around, well, what are you thinking? What are you believing that's creating those feelings in you? And I would start unpicking that.
Great. That's good. Now, have we got any other questions, any other thoughts that people have got? They want to know more about NLP. I guess, Elaine, there's a lot of NLP practitioners across New Zealand and the world. Somebody could find somebody in their local area. Obviously,
Absolutely.
Zoom's become very popular with COVID lockdowns as well, that practitioners are accessible online now as well.
Yeah, NLP translates really well online because it's so much around our words and the words that we're saying to ourselves because of the things that we've taken in and the messages we've received. So you can talk just as easily. If you find someone you're really comfortable with online, you can talk just as easily as someone you feel really comfortable with as a one-to-one in person.
Right.
We were talking earlier about how, although I work as a sole trader, I'm affiliated with Your Life Live It. And my reason for that was it keeps me accountable, and it keeps me accountable for my own well-being, and it keeps me accountable for operating within the American Board of NLP Practitioners Code of Practice. So perhaps look for NLP practitioners who are working as part of an affiliation because they will be keeping themselves clean.
Great. Good advice there. Right, well, that seems to be the end of the questions, so we'll wind up for now. So thank you, everybody, for your time today. The recording will be available on the website as well. So thank you very much. We will have Elaine's details. If anybody's got further questions, you can come through to us and we can pass those on to Elaine. Any clarification on anything, we're more than happy to do that. Great. Thanks, everybody. Ka kite.